With the recent killings of black men and women by civilians and officers alike, it feels as if we're living in an era of modern day slavery. And these are what lynchings now look like: deaths with slow or no justice. And so there's nationwide public outcry, and our news and social media headlines are flooded with calls for justice. No justice, no peace. Justice for Breonna Taylor. Justice for George Floyd. Black Lives Matter. But then you hear, what about blue lives? Don't they matter too? Sometimes it's not about black versus blue, and in my opinion, it's important to hear all perspectives. After all, police officers are human too. So today, I have a conversation with Tameca West, who has a long career in law enforcement as a former Army veteran and the current Assistant Chief of Police for the city of West Palm Beach. Hi, Tameca.
Hi, Carla. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today. How was your day, first of all, before I even dive in? Because I know we just came
yeah,
from.
I was hectic, but that's okay. Yes.
Okay.
How
No,
about
so
you?
thank you for joining me. My day was a standard day, busy. I'll have work after this, so it'll be back to the grind. But I'm working from home, so in the midst of Corona, I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home.
Yes, thank God. Yes.
So recently, in the middle of all the uprising due to recent killings of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, we're hearing even more cases.
Sure.
Elijah McClain. So many lives lost, both recently and years. We can go back. The list is endless, and the Black Lives Matter movement is having a resurgence, and there's an uprising across the nation. And so I decided I really needed to have conversations with different leaders in the community. And I really thought it was important to get a law enforcement perspective. And especially, you are a Black female. And when you think of cases like Breonna Taylor, we hear outcry. Why are Black women not protected?
Right.
As much as Black men, if you will, and even so, why are we facing all this police brutality? So I just wanted to get your perspective as a Black woman, as a police officer. We can just start there. How are you feeling in the middle of all of this? And I'm sure there are layers.
Yeah, I mean, you have mixed feelings. Of course, from a police perspective, you can look at some of the incidents and understand why they happen and how they happen. Others have no reason, non-justifiable. Of course, Ahmaud Arbery was not police related. However, it was ultimately criminal justice related. And that the incident happened in February. The world didn't know about it until months later. And just as a mother, just as a Black person, I just cried, because I'm like, this guy's literally fighting for his life, and for the court system to say that they were justified initially, for people to see that, it's just heartbreaking, but those, in my opinion, those people absolutely had no right to stop that guy. They were civilians just as he was. He had no reason or no obligation to stop and speak with them.
Right.
Totally different from a law enforcement officer in uniform who's trying to stop you. Of course, you should stop and say, what you're doing, etc. In my opinion, it looks like he was obviously jogging, but
there's, they said they had affiliation with police, so maybe in their mind they felt like they have some kind of authority, but that's in not reality. Right?
In their minds, but you got to think about someone, anybody. That's me right now. Even I'm, they have affiliation, and one was retired allegedly, and one was the son. But I'm active. If I go in my civilian clothes, I cannot just stop people. Now I have a duty to act. If I see somebody being brutalized or something like that, I can intervene. But I'm still taking a chance because I'm a civilian. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody has an obligation to stop and to heed me and blah, 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 or that sort of thing. So, whether affiliation, but still just the slap in the face.
When you say that, I think of a phrase I've seen going around, which is, you are Black 24/7, but, only 40 hours of the week are you blue, if you will, right?
Yeah, and that's what sayings on, and I've explained this to my coworkers. I actually had a meeting today with some colleagues. And like you said, I tell people, we were born black first. We weren't born blue. And that's why I say Black Lives Matter. There are no blue lives. We're born black. I can't get rid of that. I have a son, I have a brother, I have a dad, uncles, etc. So we have those same fears when our children leave the house. Just because we're police officers doesn't make it any different.
Right.
We have those same fears. We want our children to come home safe, and we know how they're targeted. It does happen. That's just the reality of the situation. So just being, as we say, black and blue, it is very difficult because you see things, you see injustices just within the criminal justice system itself. But what I try to tell people is look at it even globally, because like you said, there's a resurgence of Black Lives Matter. So why does it have to resurge? Why didn't it continue? Because if Black Lives Matter, it shouldn't just be the police. Exactly. It shouldn't just be about police brutality, because you can dig into this as much as you want. The healthcare system, the educational system, all these systems are flawed.
Discrimination,
housing, all of it. So Black Lives Matter. It doesn't matter. When a person goes into the ER and don't get adequate care. Why aren't you at the hospital? People die in hospitals every day. Nobody bats an eye. People die in prisons every day. Unfortunately, we are in the front lines and people can see us. We're the most visible target. So people can film it, etc. But Black lives shouldn't matter. And then, you can go into we kill each other, and I understand, we're the peer person that can arrest people per se, stop them. And we should be the ones, but it's a double-edged sword, and it's very difficult sometimes to, exist between the two, and then to explain to people, which is why I appreciate you having me on, because it starts with a conversation as a coworker of mine said, to see both sides of them, like, and you may say, what, I get it, but you may say, well, I'm glad you explained it, but I still don't agree, and that's fine. But this is the way police see it. We may, we say, well, I believe that was justified. That's the way I see it, but everybody has their own opinions, and ultimately it's up to the court or their department.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think that right now there is, real mistrust with police, but at the same time, I think everyone knows that, we need police in general to keep our communities safe, right? And so it's kind of, it's difficult when you hear defund the police, because I know I can hear something deeper beyond just defunding, right? In my mind, it's not just take away all the money from police officers. That would be nonsensical. Sure. We all understand the value of police officers in the community. But when you hear that, what do you think?
Well, I think, like you said, that's a term that people are just throwing out there. And unfortunately, going back to Black Lives Matter, and I really don't want to attribute everything, but everybody tries to go to that. And I even looked up that site. There's not even a chapter here in Florida. So I asked, where does the money go? Are you really affiliated with that group? Or are you like a hybrid, or what, are you really affiliated? But yet still they get the credit or the criticism, depending on who's talking. But when people just throw terms out, defund the police, like, what does that mean to you? Because, you do say, some people, you say, well, you're realistic enough to say, hey, we need police in society. Otherwise there'll be chaos, but there are other people who say, no, let us police ourselves. Well, if you could police yourselves, there would be, why would we be here at all? The social workers can do it. Not, people are saying that.
To me, it's about reallocating funds, right?
Yeah, reallocating some funds.
People need to understand, I think, that, they need to hold their mayors accountable too with budgeting. So people really need to know what's going into these budgets. When they're out, what's for training, what's for, if they need vehicles, whatever the case may be, to have an understanding of what are we paying for as a community. What are the real needs? It needs to be deeper than just saying something as broad as defund the police. We need to be investing in the communities, like you already mentioned. There are issues, education, housing, you name it, we can go back. So when I hear it, I hear, are we using our money wisely? Let's figure out how we can do this smart. Let's invest in communities and be smart about how we're funding our police.
Exactly. And it's public record. People can go get the budget for the city. They can see how their dollars are being spent. They can have a voice. They can go to city commission meetings. But like you said, now, in my opinion, just now is not the time to what people defund the police. If realistically, you need more money if you're talking about all this training, because what happens is the first thing they cut out is training. So if guys aren't getting trained, then we're back to square one, because we couldn't go to the extra training. We couldn't go to the higher training. So then we're behind. And then, when you come in and something happens, well, you know what? Funding was cut. We couldn't send guys to training. Therefore, they were deficient in that skill. We couldn't send them. You know what? They get to keep their job because the city was negligent because they could not send them to training. So when people say defund the police, a lot, you like you said, you know, you're saying reallocate, but some people really mean take away all the money and get rid of the police. Some people do mean that, and unfortunately, they're not educated enough on it to know what that really means. I mean, I would love for it. Hey, go for it for a day, a week, no police, and I'm pretty.
I mean, if there's you know, if there's a reallocation of funds, or if they're thinking, how can we change? What do you envision as, you know, a better way, maybe, when it comes to potentially training? Like, you know, I've heard some folks say, you know, maybe police officers should have more of a background in social work. I've spoken to someone who has a background in social work, and they think that might not be the answer necessarily, because there are flaws within even the framework of social work teachings. The biases are all there as well.
And
So,
every system, as we said earlier, in every system, there are biases and injustices.
right. So, you know, what do you think a approach, more community policing? What do we do here locally in West Palm Beach? Because you're the assistant chief of police in West Palm Beach. So what do we do here locally, and what do you think we could do better and differently? Or, you know, we haven't had those cases that we've seen nationwide here.
Yeah, thankfully.
Right, thankfully. But if you are thinking, what could be done, even here, and what can people learn from what we're already doing?
Right. Well, when you say reallocate, I'm not really, I'd have to dig deeper into it. I'm not really sure. You know, we can always use money, you know, for training, for equipment. Some people say we have too much, but that's just my perspective on it. You know, we actually, our department sent a group up to Camden to see what they're doing. And we do, I think every department in the United States has some form of community policing. But as I told you, I was speaking with my colleagues earlier. From what I've seen in this, I've been in it 21 years of seeing this policing, and, you know, sometimes we go too far. First of all, the police.
Well, I mean, even with community policing, what does that even mean right now? There is so much mistrust. What does that mean right now? What would that look like?
What does that mean? Well, like I said, people don't realize the police are asked to do so much, so many things that are outside of their purview. And you know why? Because we'll always answer the phone and we'll always come. That's just the bottom line. People can call their therapist. They won't answer the phone. It's midnight. I'm not answering my phone. They can call their doctor. They can call their mother. I'm not answering my phone. I know you are high and I'm not dealing with that tonight. But when they call 911, we got to go. We got to be the therapist. We got to be the mom. We got to be maybe the taxi. Okay. So at that point, we become the therapist. We become this person that we're not trained for, or this mom's calling because she can't deal with this son who may be even 10 or 11. You know, so we're a civil matter between roommates, stuff that we shouldn't be getting involved with at all. But we become the fixer of everything, and it results in sometimes bigger problems.
Well, do you think there's a way to shift the approach so there are different types of officers, or they do training in specific to that, since you guys are being called for everything? So, you know.
Well, we are trained in what we call crisis intervention. That's a 80-hour class, I believe. Crisis intervention, where you deal with people that are mentally ill. We have human diversity training. We have biased policing. As a matter of fact, we have our attacks. We have de-escalation skills. We have all that's in our policies. We have verbal judo. We have all those things, but you got to understand, we're still, you know, like as I say, jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
You know, so you're doing all these things, and what I got to realize, you know, I may go in service. I'm ready to go for my calls for service in West Palm Beach. I may go to a baby that drowned. When I leave that call, I may go to a house burglary. Then I may have to go to a little boy who's lost. You got all those dynamics, and I got to be 100% for all this stuff, because guess what? It may be 1 a.m. There's nobody I can call. There's nobody I can call and say, hey, there's a woman out here who's in her 20s who's got 5 kids and one's a newborn, and they ain't got no place to stay. You know what we do? A lot of we go in our pockets and go, okay, let's get our hotel room for tonight. We got to fix it. Nobody, okay, if we leave, people are going to call, because they're going to call the police, because there's nobody else will answer their phone. There's other people to call, but we got to answer our phone and we got to come. And then if they left that lady out there by herself with all those kids. Well, really, it's a community problem. That's a community problem. The homeless, we got to deal with that. Everybody's sympathetic toward the homeless, but nobody wants them in their neighborhoods. Guess who has to deal with? Guess who they rely on to deal with them? They're not breaking the law. They're homeless. But who do they call? The police the police should be handling it. These people out here, they aren't doing anything, ma'am. They're on the sidewalk. It's not illegal. But people, we're taxed to do so many things, to do this, to do that. So, and it all depends, what is, community policing, like you just said, what does it mean to you? It depends on the community. My community policing in West Palm is not going to look the same as it does in Boca. Right. It's not going to look the same as it does in Palm Beach Gardens. So Mel Glade. I can tell you right now, I got a captain. He does a heck, but he's always in the community. There is great need out there, and people don't understand the need. People are hungry. You got to go in your pocket sometimes. I mean, people are literally starving. You go into a house for a call for service where somebody had a domestic, or you go in there, the refrigerator's bare. They got a mattress on the floor. So then you go get into these home, and there's nobody to call other than us, but they know that we're going to come. So what does community policing look like? Does it mean going out, passing out lunches, handing out hot dogs to people? Because my philosophy all this time, at the end of the day, we are here to enforce the laws. And so far, sometimes we get so far away and so mixed up in stuff that we really should not be doing. That's not law enforcement, till criminals are getting away. Kids, people are selling dope, people breaking the houses, because we don't have time to do it, because we're out here building bonds and relationships. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. You definitely need that community outreach, etc. But at some point, where do you draw the line and say, wait a minute, this isn't what we got to do?
Beyond the scope of your
role. Yeah.
So you did mention that, I asked you, so what kind of training are you getting? You mentioned that you are getting the diversity of, it may not be the focus, but you are doing the things that would make you aware of what kind of issues are happening in the community.
Yeah, it's
diversity training. You are able to, right?
Crisis intervention.
Right. So in that case, then people would say, all right, so on a local level, this is what West Palm Beach is doing, and that's excellent. So maybe that's why we're not seeing the cases here. Do you think that's missing in other departments? And is that a budget thing? Is that a gap? Why are we seeing the incidents across the nation? If they're getting this diverse training, then what's happening? Why are we seeing so many cases?
I really don't know. I mean, I can't say what other departments are doing. Hopefully, I think, we all go to trainings. We have a collective effort in that. I would say most departments on board, just so things that happen with Mr. George Floyd. Nobody treats that to be on anybody's neck, vascular restraint. I'll just be honest. You just have stupid people. And you're going to have that in any profession. People that go against policy, people that break policy. And we see that all day. May not be anything that drastic, but police officers are fired every day. Police officers are arrested. So sometimes you just have people that are untrained, stupid, or, they may have mental issues. Who knows? It could be a whole bunch of, but also on the same token, they can also have felt threatened.
Okay.
Depending on the situation, they may have felt threatened. I don't know.
But there's so many, it feels so vague to just say it's, people, it could be stupidity or fear. Right? It feels like a way bigger problem than that, well, right?
I like I've told people, I mean, think about all the departments just in this country alone, all the cities, large cities, small cities. I mean, New York City has like 40,000 police officers, 50,000 police officers. So you're going to say in a run of a day, I would venture to say there are at least 1 million contacts between citizens and police officers every day. You safe to say 1 million. Now, nobody should die. I get that. Nobody should be brutalized, etc. But
and do you see it as a race issue? By the way, do you see
it can be. I've never witnessed that myself, but it can be. I'm not naive enough to think that it may not be a race issue. I've heard stories, may not, but it's not all the time a race issue,
right?
But like I said, what I was going to say, in 1 million encounters a day, nobody should die. But let's face it. When the police come, sometimes bad things happen. People don't call us for nice things. People call us because they want us to resolve an issue. Somebody's acting out. Somebody's doing something. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, bad things happen. And I'm gonna tell you, it'll happen again. Maybe not that same. Somebody's gonna die at the hands of the police again.
So I mean, in these cases, when you see police misconduct and someone is fired, how can they go somewhere else and just get their job back? Or, I really wasn't familiar with police unions before all of this like that, and maybe I was just naive, or I was just ignorant to it. But can you kind of talk about the role of unions and what the protections are there, and when there is misconduct, why are people given their jobs back? Why, sometimes it feels like everyone's covering up for that misconduct, and they're protecting their own, if you will, which I can understand to one extent. But when there are ethical violations, it shouldn't be that case. So can you kind of talk on that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, you got to understand, the beginning of this country, unions began to protect the worker because workers were being abused. If you settle your history,
Right.
workers were being, they were working hours. So unions began to protect the worker. That's what they're for. Okay. Unfortunately, what happens is, becomes like in a lot of industries, you try to get rid of the bad apples, and then unions come in and say, wait a minute, you didn't do this right. You didn't do this right. Or this, then you got to practice this. Okay, we're going to save this guy's job. That all depends. Some people get fired, get their jobs back. Some people, everybody doesn't get their job back. Some people go to get arrested and go to prison. I know police officers personally that have gone to prison. So that's not always the case, but sometimes, unfortunately, people do get their jobs back. And the number one reason people get their jobs back, because the cities or the police departments don't follow due process.
Okay. So they're administrative failures, if you will.
Yes. This is the thing. There's a police officers' Bill of Rights, and you can look it up. But if I can explain the two dynamics of the two. Police officers have the same rights when they're criminally charged. Well, when they're criminally charged, just as any other citizens, we have those same rights, right to remain silent, right, all that, you read the rights. However, for a police officer, there are two disciplines. There are two things that you have administrative discipline, which is policy. I violated policy. What I did was not enough to get arrested for, but I still could be fired for that because I violated the policy, depending on what it was. Now, you also have the criminal aspect of it, where what I did was, I violated a law or statute. Okay. So what happens is, most time, like I said, lets me know there was no due process. Even the investigation with Rashard Brooks, the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigations, said they were not done with their investigation. Okay. They were not afforded due process. Minneapolis, they arrested those gentlemen. They said, we're not done with the investigation. We don't.
Obviously, I think that case is difficult because only the officers were on the scene, right? So they're the ones that are kind of telling the story to do it.
No video.
Right. So that makes it challenging. But when you hear someone, they go in the house, she shot 8 times, she wasn't the person, they messed up. It was the wrong house.
Yeah. Totally.
It still doesn't make sense that no one's been arrested.
It doesn't. No, well, you're not saying nobody's. Eventually, someone may be arrested. But the problem is when you rush to arrest people, they are going to jump on it.
So in this case, over 100 days, to me, that's too long. But I can understand you saying one day. One day might be too quick.
Well, I understand, especially if it's your loved one. 100 days maybe, but for police officers, you can take up to 180 days. And even longer. That all depends. I don't know where they were in the investigation.
So there's a time frame within your guys' parameter that's up to 180 days.
Yeah, unless it's now there may be extenuating circumstances, but 180 days for administrative investigation. But we are due the same rights just as any other citizen.
No, yeah.
What you're kind of saying is, okay, I'm coming to get you. Excuse me. Your next door neighbor said you broke into her house. Come with me, I'm taking you to jail. Then I'm gonna go get all the facts. Then I'm gonna go talk to all the other neighbors.
No.
Yeah.
So, I'm not. So even after, when you're building cases, you're still gonna be finding out facts as you go along.
You can still find.
You're not gonna know at the beginning. But if I've done my research and I think I have enough to meet the elements to make this.
Absolutely. If I think I got it.
Even if sometimes it is quick, you can do it quickly. But I think what you're saying is you don't have to rush to always do those arrests.
Right. There's a lot of things that's going to go into this. Not only do you don't have to rush, you don't want to rush. Because if this is a legitimate if this is a legitimate case where I
You
can
want to
arrest
be
this
able
person
to
just like
uphold.
anybody, I want to be able to prove this, and I don't want this person to be a police officer. Second of all, I want to be fair to the officer.
Right.
Because I would want to be fair to a citizen if I were arresting.
You want to be fair regardless of who it is.
Because they are a citizen. Because there are repercussions from making a quick arrest. I was going to say about the Atlanta. People are, they're arrested. They lost their jobs. They are more, I'm telling you, they're going to get their jobs back. There was not due process. Okay. I can articulate everything that I would say if I were those officers, everything I would say when I went to my hearing that would get me my job back, you know? And the unfortunate residual effect, years ago was Freddie from Baltimore, Maryland, when that incident happened. They threw him in the van, you know, he died, unfortunately. And, you know, a few weeks later, you know, there were civil unrest, riots, burning, looting, etc. Baltimore, Maryland was already off the chain crime-wise. It's 100 times worse now. And what's going to happen is officers will start to say, you know what? If you're going to arrest me for doing my job, then I'll do my job, but I'll do it within the parameters of what I have to do. I'm not going to risk my job. I'm not going to risk my freedom, first of all, or my retirement for people to say, oh, it didn't take all that. Oh, I just called because those boys on the corner. I didn't mean for anybody to get hurt. All they was doing was standing there. Well, okay, you know what? Let them stand on the corner. They're not doing anything illegal, but you said they were selling drugs. You called me because they were selling drugs. So from now on, and they interviewed Baltimore residents, say, oh, the cops used to stop and go out with those guys. They don't do it anymore. Because everybody's, oh, their officers are getting arrested. Yay, they should get arrested. Now, I'm not saying officers do stuff wrong. Some should be arrested. That's no brainer. Some should be arrested for stuff they do. But everything, now people are on guard. Wait a minute. So if I go out and I'm legitimately trying to protect my life for somebody else's life, and a politician is going to look at it and say, I don't like what they did and they should be arrested, then what am I out here for?
So do you think that right now the media portrayal and just the way the public perceives you, you think it's unfair, or?
No, not all the time. Yes, it all depends. At times, just like they do, you know, as I know with black folks.
I'm talking about just right now with everything that's going on, and even with some of the protests and how there's been standoffs between police and the public. Do you think?
Well, yes and no. Like I said, it all depends, because this stuff does need to be exposed. Don't get me wrong, and that's what we have the media. It does need to be exposed, but I just think it adds to the hype when you say when a black male was killed by a white male officer today, because black male officers kill black males. They don't, but you don't hear the race then. You don't hear when it's a white male and a white officer, or even a black male officer and a white male. You don't hear that. But when it's a black male and a white officer, they highlight the race, and that's the part I don't like it. But and just to piggyback, I don't think I answered. Yeah, administration, we are frustrated with the union as well. So at times it is good when they have those protections. People legitimately doing anything wrong, they can protect them. They can go into court and help that officer out. But there are people that we've tried to get rid of, like you say, and stuff flipped through the cracks and they got their jobs back. But the main reason is because people rush stuff and they didn't get their due process. That's the thing. If you take your time and you're methodical about it, you present the case to the state attorney's office, the arrest is made, and hopefully everything will turn out how it's supposed to turn out.
Do you think right now, do you feel like it's more difficult to do your job in a climate like this? Do you feel uncomfortable even going to get food in whatever public places? Do you feel kind of unsafe, even though based on what's going on?
To a degree, but I mean, I'm a Christian, so I know that God is always taking care of me. So I believe in that. But as far as eating out, I'm not, unless I really know the place, I'm not real comfortable that way, because people doing stuff to people's food and that sort of thing. But this is my thing,
have you heard internally, have there been incidents that okay.
Not that I've heard in West Palm Beach.
Okay.
But I speak to people, I talk to people, I have respect for people. And I think if you do that, even if they're looking at me with as they say, the stank face or the scowl, hello, how are you? Because you just got to give that kindness and that positiveness, because everybody's not against us. And that's why I try to tell my young guy, you can't go out like everybody's against us and it's us against them. You cannot have that attitude, because there are good people out here that still need police services and still need help.
Do you think
And
do you think some people take that attitude on though? Do you think that some officers feel that way?
Oh, sure.
Right
They take
now?
it personally.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely. You, I mean, you're human. You know, we talk about, we were just, like I said, my colleague, you know, we talk about, let me check on my black officers, see how they feel about this, because, you know, they're in the middle. But let me tell you something, the white officers feel some type of way too. You know, they're feeling like, oh, we got to apologize for the way we're born. We didn't do anything wrong. We're good officers, you know? So everybody's going through this myriad of, emotions. So, you step up, like I said, I can see it both ways, because I've expressed to people, and it does bring you to tears when I'm like, for us, we were simply born. We can't do anything about our color, and we're target. All we were born, This guy chose a profession. Now, he may be doing wrong, blah, 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 but he's getting in his car. For the most part, I would like to think people are getting in their car doing the right thing, But I would say overall, we have a lot of support. I believe that. We have a lot of support. The community's there for us, and we're there for the community. And we got a job. We got to do a job. Of course, you're going to have people that, you're walking. I've had it. I'm walking down the street a couple weeks ago. Hey, fuck the police. Hey, okay, hey, how are you two? You're going to have people do that. And that's okay. Hey, that's fine. That's fine. As long as it doesn't come physical and you're not doing, hey, it's fine. If you feel that way, you might have a reason. Like I tell my officers, hey, a lot of this stuff is justified and we bring it on ourselves. A lot of these rules and laws, because of, hey, a lot of stuff is, we brought it on ourselves. Because we have to, for us, I see our biggest problem is police officers. We have to admit when we're wrong. If we do something wrong, you got to come forward and say, that was wrong.
Right.
Or if you don't believe it was wrong, you got to articulate it in an intelligent way, but if something is wrong, George Floyd, who can justify that? That was wrong. You got to be able to say it without, say it loud. Hey, and if my officer stand next to me saying, well, I don't agree, maybe you shouldn't be an officer, because if you can't see that was wrong, and we got to acknowledge it. And I understand what pisses people off.
I think that's a great perspective, because I feel like that is missing. I feel like people don't hear enough officers.
That's where the problem. Yeah. And they mistreat people, and like you said, got their job back, which we wouldn't want. But some people support it. But I don't know what's happening in Minneapolis. I don't know how the unions work. If they're being represented by union lawyers, because we do have union lawyers that represent, or union said, hey, buddy, you're on your own, because they could do that as well. I really don't know what's happening there.
If you had to come up with a few things that you think could be a way of change and moving forward, build back the trust, or policy changes, what would you want to see? I mean, you've already mentioned that you think there are issues with the union. You already spoke on just individual officers, and maybe it's a cultural thing. It needs to be a cultural change for officers to be able to admit that, when there's wrongdoing,
Sure.
Stuff like that. If there anything that you can give
like I said, just, I would like to just see more officers that way, and supervise that we can have a little more oversight and accountability. That's the biggest thing for us, accountability for the officers, and transparency. Just transparency. Hey, the public can come in. Hey, you need these records, here you go. You want to read it, here you go. You need a conversation, call me up. We can talk anytime. That's why I welcome this, any conversation, because people are wondering right now. People are curious. People are scared too. Right. Hey, what is going on? So ask the question, tell the officer, hey, don't be defensive. And the citizen, don't be defensive. Everything I say, you don't have to jump down my throat because I don't agree with what you said. Oh, you saying that was right, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's my opinion. And I'm coming from a professional side of it. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what our training is. You don't know what the threat level is, because everything we have to look at, well, couldn't they have shot him in the leg? But no, people can still move when they're shot in the leg. People can still kill me when they're shot in the leg. No, that's not the way we're trained. But if somebody comes up, hey, but let me tell you something. I'm the first one to tell you, make 2 years from now, somebody may come up with something different, and we do it different. Who knows?
Do you think implementing practical things like requiring body cams and requiring that they are on all the time, do you think that adds a level of accountability that could be?
Oh, absolutely helped. Our department was the second in the county to get the body cameras. And, there was some balking initially, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's helped tremendously. And I don't know, it's because they're wearing the body cameras that they're doing better and the citizens are acting out more. But I can tell you unequivocally, 80% of the time when the citizen complains, my officer did nothing wrong. Now, there are those when I'm watching and I catch some stuff and I go, nope, you're getting documented for this. Nope, you shouldn't have done this. Nope, you need to be retrained on that. So that does happen. But I will say 80%, the camera has saved the officer more than it's hurt them. It honestly has. And I would advocate for cameras for everybody. It would save the department so much work. I know some departments are still resistant to it, but it's expensive too now. Those cameras are very expensive with the storage space, etc. But I love the cameras because, like I said, they've saved us more than they've hurt us.
Because of the accountability on both sides.
Yeah, accountability on both sides. And it could, I don't know if the officers weren't acting right before and now they're acting right, or they were acting right the whole time and now it's proven. But either way, I'm happy, because I can say, hey, let me watch the video, ma'am. I'll call you right back. Let me check it out. And if he didn't have it on, he's getting disciplined for that.
So yeah, that requirement to keep it on is important.
Or when they go to a call, you gotta turn it on. Or most citizen encounters, you gotta turn on your camera. Yeah, so I think it's great.
So anything else that you want to add or leave the community with, especially in this time right now?
Yeah, well, like I said, we appreciate everybody's support. We know that times are tough for people, dealing with the COVID, dealing with this, elections. I mean, we're all over the place.
Yeah.
We are really all over the place. And we know, and just understand that we're people too. We get stressed. We have bad days. I don't want anybody to die as a result of a bad day. If my officer's rude because of a bad day, that may be okay, but I don't want anybody to die because you had a bad day. I certainly don't want officers going out targeting people because of discrimination or biases, etc. Things are going to happen. I would just ask the citizens to be open, come and have conversation, communication, understand stuff is going to happen, but you got to also be realistic and listen to us when we say, hey, we're going to take care of this, but it may not come out how you want it to come out. That may be the reality also, but I have confidence in my investigators. I can say, hey, listen, do you want to, here's the investigation, because they're public record. Everything's public record. If you know of an officer that was did something or was arrested or fired, you can go to their internal affairs in Florida, I know, and say, hey, I need a copy of that report. And they'll give you, and you can read right through. Hey, that's what happened. That's what happened. Blah blah. Hey, here, read the report, and then we can discuss it. And we're always open to communication, suggestions. Because listen, we're not 100%. It hasn't happened here, but we can always do better. Let's be realistic. We can always do better as a department in many ways. Communications, community outreach, etc. And in whatever way, whoever wants to help us or communicate or has a question or a problem, feel free to reach out. We will answer the question. May not be the answer you want to hear, but we will answer the question. I'll definitely answer you and get back with you.
But I feel that goes back to some of what we're talking about. Yeah, no, I think it's important to hear all sides and all angles when we're dealing with things in the community, because everyone has a voice and everyone deserves to be heard. And whether I like the opinion, someone else likes the opinion, that's not the point. We all should be able to speak and come together and have proactive solutions when things are happening.
Well, definitely, people come up with solutions. That's the thing. That's what I'm about: positiveness and solutions. And be happy to join in any organization that's about that, and they can see change and make change. I'll be happy to be a part of it. I'd love to be a part of it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.